All right, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Very excited to be here this morning to be able to address this huge storm that we're facing and bring some awareness to what we've been doing at the state level and certainly what the hard-working local folks have been doing. I'm joined by First Lady Marty Kemp, our Insurance and Fire Safety Commissioner, General John King, GEMA Director Homer Bryson, and Mark Williams, the Commissioner for the Department of Natural Resources. Also want to thank the members of the Chatham County Commission. I know we have several mayors here, county managers, a lot of different law enforcement folks, and certainly our local EMA officials. We very much appreciate that. I want to especially thank Congressman Buddy Carter for joining us this morning. Certainly want to thank our federal partners, the President, and all those that we've been working with and their cooperation and communication that we've had with them. And I want to thank Chairman Scott and Mayor DeLoach as well. I first of all just want to thank everyone for their hard work in preparing for Hurricane Dorian. Right now, the latest projections show the hurricane headed toward Georgia's coastline. Although this trajectory remains uncertain, it is imperative that we take action now to mitigate harm and ensure the safety of our citizens and our visitors that are in the state of Georgia during this time. This storm is a big one. It's immensely powerful with strong winds, 40 to 60 miles an hour here on the coast. It also threatens to bring a very dangerous storm surge of 3 to 6 feet along the immediate coast with heavy rainfall of 4 to 6 inches, which may cause flash flooding. And based on the recommendations of federal, state, and local partners, last Thursday, I issued an executive order declaring a state of emergency in 12 coastal counties for Hurricane Dorian's preparation, response, and recovery. To ensure an uninterrupted supply of petroleum products, emergency supplies, and food, I also have temporarily waived specific weight, height, and length restrictions for vehicles traveling through Georgia for disaster response. I've also suspended regulations which limit the hours of operations for commercial vehicle drivers. I believe that all of these measures will greatly assist with ongoing storm preparation and disaster response efforts. But we still have much work to do. Throughout this process, my administration has remained, as I said earlier, in close contact with the White House, with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, South Carolina Governor Henry McMaster, and also Governor Roy Cooper of North Carolina, and all agencies at all different levels of government. We are committed to the safety of our citizens and those that are here visiting. As a result, yesterday evening I issued an executive order requiring a mandatory evacuation of individuals east of I-95 in 6 counties: Bryan, Chatham, Camden, Glenn, Liberty, and McIntosh County, starting at noon today. To aid in the traffic flow for this evacuation, GEMA and Georgia DOT will also start westerly contraflow on I-16 starting at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. All I-16 lanes will allow only westbound traffic from Savannah to US 441 in Dublin. In addition, the State Operations Center is working with the Red Cross to open shelters for evacuees in McDuffie, Lawrence, Bibb, Coffee, and Ware counties today. Information on shelter locations and opening times, in addition to available hotel accommodations, can all be found at gema.ga.gov. Through daily briefings, GEMA and state partners have been in ongoing communication with local county emergency management agencies and FEMA officials. They have deployed all field staff to all the coastal counties to support local operations and maintain communication between local and state officials. Already, we've worked hard to identify and put on standby any and all resources necessary for response and recovery. These efforts include having law enforcement and transportation agencies on alert for evacuation and post-storm response, stockpiling fuel for first responders, and emergency power operations, and compiling other similar resources. Even with all of these preparations, we still cannot stress enough that Hurricane Dorian remains a significant threat to Georgia. We strongly urge all residents to stay vigilant as we track its path and evaluate potential impact and damage. At noon, the mandatory evacuation will be in effect for those east of I-95, and I would like to ask everyone to heed those warnings, especially those that are on our barrier islands. You may be on your own if first responders are unavailable to get to you. We have the ability with first responders to move trees out of roads and cut trees up and clear roadway paths. But it's a whole different story if we have flooding on causeways and we cannot get vehicle traffic to you in a time of need. Please don't take this risk. If you're able to evacuate, please do so. In the coming days, we will keep monitoring ongoing evacuation efforts here in Georgia and from Florida and South Carolina. Obviously, we're going to do what we can to avoid gridlock and get people to safe areas of our state. Our infrastructure and roadways need to stay as clear as possible to be able to keep people moving. And now, before I turn it over, I want to take some time again to thank everyone who's been working so hard to get storm ready. I certainly appreciate President Trump and his administration for the constant communication that they've had with us over the last several days. He has personally assured me that he stands ready to assist Georgia should we need it. Late yesterday evening, we received approval from the President for a federal emergency declaration ahead of Dorian's landfall to fully leverage federal resources, including critical assistance for water, food, medical supplies, shelter support, debris removal, and public health services in the aftermath of the storm. I'm deeply grateful for the federal, state, and local agencies, law enforcement, military, the volunteers and private sector companies, as well as nonprofits, and literally countless others who have been working around the clock to prepare for this massive storm. I want to thank you for what you're doing. I wanted to also let you know that after this press conference, my team is going to the port to get a briefing on their operations, and then we'll be heading down to Brunswick and to Glenn County EMA offices to give them an update as well. We'll constantly continue to put out updates on our social media platforms, so I hope you'll stay tuned to that. And with that, I want to now turn it over to GEMA Director Homer Bryson. Homer.
Thank you, Governor. The Governor's done an excellent job of updating of where we are and sort of how we've gotten here. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you to our local partners, the cities and the counties and local EMA directors. We've developed a relationship over the last several years that makes us positioned to be successful. And that is the goal for all of us working together to take care of our citizens. Communication and coordination above all else is what makes us work and what makes us successful. We've allocated already over 1,500 state employees to this effort, and they range, as the Governor mentioned, from law enforcement to debris removal to swift water rescue. And we will continue to allocate resources to meet the needs of the local governments, because our mission is to be here, is to support you and help you keep your citizens safe. And with that, I'll turn it over to Georgia's Insurance Commissioner, John King.
Thank you, Homer. Good morning. We're incredibly focused, as you can imagine, with the Governor's direction, working very closely with GEMA Director Homer Bryson. We're focused on the Insurance Commissioner with getting the industry to focus on recovery process. So we're incredibly focused. We're ready. We know this is an incredibly resilient community, and we stand by to support you. I'll turn it over to the Governor.
All right, thank you, General. I think that wraps us up here. We got a great team of obviously state folks with us, and as well as our local EMA directors. And we'll just take a few questions real quick before we have to get out of here if anybody's got them.
Would you have any advice or a word of warning to anybody who says they don't want to evacuate?
Well, listen, one of the first things I heard when I got here was from one of the mayors concerned about folks on, the barrier islands not heeding these warnings. I cannot stress enough, this storm is still moving. It's massive. I would not take any chances with this one. It could continue to move in directions that we're not thinking, but regardless of that, we're going to be in the path. The cone continues to be touching the Georgia coast, which means we're going to have beach erosion, heavy rains, flooding. We're already experiencing high tides just to the moon pattern that we're in right now. And if the causeway or roadways get cut off, we are not going to be able to get services to you very quickly, especially if there's a massive event over there. So I would not take the chances. I believe we got a fair amount of time. I would get your things together. One of the things that Insurance Commissioner King's been reminding people, get your critical paperwork on your insurance and other belongings, have them where you can move very quickly. And if you're on one of these islands and you have somewhere to go, I would suggest doing it. It's not worth the risk of staying and riding it out. We may not be able to help you if something were to happen.
Governor, in talking to Mayor Deloach and Tybie's mayor, just talking about the surge concerns, I mean, it could be epic.
Well, look, I would just look at what's happening in the Bahamas right now. Now they're taking a direct hit, but I mean, this is a massive storm. It's already set records with 185, 190 mile an hour sustained winds, the largest ever in the Atlantic. I mean, this is not one to play around with.
Governor, what's the biggest concern right here in Chatham County, and specifically here in Savannah?
Well, I think for me is just having, right now today is making sure that we have a orderly process, which we do. I want to thank the locals for being really so transparent with us as we've been with them to plan. So I feel like we have a good plan. But, I said outside earlier to someone, I feel like we're the traffic light right here in Savannah because we have people coming out of South Carolina into Georgia to get on I-16. You have people coming up from Florida, and then we have all our visitors that have been spending the holiday on the coast down here. So there's a lot going on. There's going to be a lot of people moving, and we need to have an orderly process. And we've tried to lay that out in a way that we can do that where we don't have a lot of gridlock. And also be able to get supplies in that we need, like gasoline and other things. So that's really my biggest concern right now, and I know the locals will continue to keep us up to speed on their needs.
Can you provide any numbers on, say, National Guard troops, maybe timing of people coming into the area?
Well, I wouldn't want to speculate on that. We've set this up where we have the resources available. General King has great experience with that in the Guard. I may let him speak to the potential of what you could do if it's warranted. General?
Not only is the National Guard incredibly well prepared. Obviously, you have a famous battalion here, the 118th, but General Carden, the Adjutant General, is absolutely committed that we will not be late to need in the Guard. Also, the Army. We've received calls not only from NORTHCOM but also from the Pentagon that no need will be unmet. So all the full resources of the military are behind this, and we have no indications of any shortcomings at this point.
All right, we've got time for one more if anybody's got one.
Is there any kind of local law enforcement coordination as far as if somebody wants to get back into their area tonight? Do they have not evacuated? Will they be able to get back in, or is there
Well,
cars at the?
I mean, I can let you speak to some of the locals when we finish. I mean, we're not trying to arrest people for not evacuating or being able to get things out of their home. We ordered the evacuation for a reason, to protect people. We want people to listen to us and to take this advice, but we also, we understand from a common sense perspective, some people need to load things up and get ready to move, and we just, we want to tell people to do that as quickly as possible, and I feel like they will, and we'll continue to communicate that message. Thank you all for being here today.